I start books because I get curious, and I don't even finish the series even if I like it a lot. So this video is to reflect on all of the series that I'm in the middle of and decide whether I'm going to continue them or not. So starting us off, we have the Folk of the Air trilogy by Holly Black. We have the first book, The Cruel Prince, the second book, The Wicked King, and the third book, The Queen of Nothing. I have read all three of these, so why is it in this video? Because in my mind, the Stolen Heir duology is kind of part of this whole thing, since it follows a character in this world that we already know. I haven't read the duology yet, so that means I still have the Stolen Heir and the Prisoner's Throne to read. But I'm not in a rush to read them. The Maple Hill series by Hannah Grace. We have the first book, Icebreaker, and the second book, Wildfire. Why did this go so viral? I mean, if you liked it, fine, but I didn't. I read this but didn't like it, but people said that they liked this one even though they didn't like this one. So okay, I decided to give it another chance and read this one. Still did not like it. So in conclusion, I don't really have an interest in reading the third book, Daydream, even though I really like the cover. That cover almost got me, but no. The Magnolia Parks Universe by Jessa Hastings. This series is the reason why I had to learn how to purchase books in the UK and have it sent over to America. I purchased from Blackwell's, by the way, if you're curious. I just had to have these indie covers, especially because I didn't like the leggy covers. So we have the first book, Magnolia Parks, the second book, Daisy Hates, the third book, Magnolia Parks, The Long Way Home, and the fourth book, Daisy Hates, The Great Undoing. You'll notice that I'm missing the fifth one. The fifth book wasn't out when I purchased these four, so that's why I don't have it. This is a billionaire, new adult, contemporary romance, and I've read the first two. I just couldn't get myself to care for these characters or the drama that they were getting themselves involved in. It's been described a lot as Gossip Girl, but in the UK. And yes, both are filled with super rich people with lots of drama. But do you know what the big difference is? Watching Gossip Girl, you can see the pretty people, the pretty clothes, and the grand properties that they own. Take that away and you get these books, and you can only see the childish drama. So no, I have no desire to read the other two that I bought. Maybe one day I'll force myself because I do have the physical copies, but right now I don't see that day coming. The Twisted series by Anna Huang. These are contemporary romance books, and there are 4 of them. The first book is a brother's best friend romance, the second book is a forbidden romance, the third book is an enemies to lovers romance, and the fourth book is a fake dating billionaire romance. These are interconnected standalones, so you don't have to read them in order, but it would be nice to because I think the couples, they show up in the succeeding books. Currently, I've read Twisted Love and Twisted Games, so I have Twisted Hate and Twisted Lies left. As it stands, I like Twisted Love better than I like Twisted Games. And I'm not in a rush to finish it, but I do intend on finishing the series. Also, I know I may be weird, but I want to finish this series before I get to the Kings of Sin series by Anna Huang. I know they have nothing to do with each other, but I still want to finish this series like as a base before I move on to a different series for Anna Huang. And since I want to read the Kings of Sin series, it motivates me more to read the last 2 books. The Knock 'Em Out series by Lucy Score. Just like the Twisted series, I've been meaning to finish this Knock 'Em Out series for a while now. There are 3 interconnected standalones. First, we have Things We Never Got Over, which is kind of like a Grumpy Sunshine romance. Next, we have Things We Hide from the Light, which is a close proximity romance. And then the third and final book is Things We Left Behind, which is an enemies to lovers romance. I've only read the first one, so I have these 2 left, but I do intend on finishing it. The Shatter Me series by Tahira Mafi. You're gonna have to settle for the cover of the first book and the spines of the rest of the books because I just don't have enough space to display them all. Such a good series! I've read the first 3 out of the 6 books, but there are also novellas that go in between these books. So you're telling me that even though I bought this whole 6-book set, I have to go out and buy another 4-book novella set? Just take my wallet, why don't you? And then I recently found out that the author Tahira Mafi has started a whole new series set 10 years after this first series called Shatter Me, The New Republic, and the first book is called Watch Me. And honestly, for the life of me, I cannot remember the order of the titles. I have to remind myself and look at the list in order for me to know which goes in which order. Someone please tell me I'm not alone in this. If I can, I'd like to finish the last 3 books, Restore Me, Define Me, and Imagine Me, and the rest of the novellas before the new book Watch Me comes out in April of next year. Dance of Thieves by Mary E. Pearson. This is a thick book. It's a young adult dystopian fantasy romance, and it was an okay read for me. I know this is so dumb, and my husband would be shaking his head if I told him this, but I don't mind not continuing this series. But the second book, Vow of Thieves, is such a pretty book. I just want it on my shelves. It's not common for a book to be so bright red, so I think it would look really pretty on my shelves. And it's not like I didn't like the Dance of Thieves. I just kind of thought it was a little bit long. Look at me trying to convince myself that I want to read The Vow of Thieves just because I want that cover. The Kiss Quotient series by Helen Huang. We have the Kiss Quotient, the Bride Test, and the Heart Principle. I'll show you. This is at the point where I stopped because I did DNF this book. And honestly, unless I am forced somehow by a TBR prompt or a random pick to read one of these books, I am just not planning on continuing this series. Sorry. The Off-Campus series by L. Kennedy. All 5 books in this series are sports college romances, and they're all interconnected standalone, so you don't have to read them in order. I've only read The Deal, which is an ice hockey romance, and I couldn't help but compare it to Icebreaker by Hannah Grace. FYI, I like The Deal so much better than Icebreaker. However, I'm not eager to finish the rest of the series. I think I'll pick one up if I need a palate cleanser or something. Nevermore series by Jessica Townsend. This is a middle grade book, meaning it's a children's book, not even a young adult book. And there are 4 books in this series. The first one came out in 2017, and the 4th book is coming out in June of next year. I've read the first one and loved it. It's a children's fantasy and a supernatural mystery book that follows a young girl who's supposedly cursed and doomed to pass away on the midnight of her 11th birthday. But she gets whisked away to this magical city called Nevermore, where she enters a competition to stay in Nevermore. Otherwise, she has to go back to her hometown where she's doomed to fulfill her birthright curse. The storytelling is wonderful, and I do plan on finishing the rest of the series. The Carvel series by Stephanie Garber. I still don't understand how I've only read the first book, even though I love the first book. I was so jealous of the people reading Spectacular, which came out this year. This series, I have to get a move on for sure. I want to read the Once Upon a Broken Heart series already. The Regency Fairy Tales by Olivia Atwater. Half a Soul was one of my top reads this year, and it's actually part of a series called the Regency Fairy Tales. Fairy as in fae, not fairy godmother. And there are 3 books in this series, this one being the first one, Half a Soul. The second one is 10,000 Stitches, which has the female main character get in trouble with the fairy, but also has a Cinderella twist to it. And then the third book, Long Shadow, has the female main character trying to save the young ladies of London because they seem to be dying mysteriously. I'd just like to add that I love the covers for all 3 of these books. Letters of Enchantment Duology by Rebecca Ross. This is the first book, and the second book is Ruthless Vows. Ruthless Vows actually won the Goodreads Choice Awards for young adult fantasy this year. That means all of those people who read Ruthless Vows also read Divine Rivals. And I think that's incredible for a second book in a series to win a category. It tells me that the fandom is strong, and I'm definitely gonna read Ruthless Vows. The Windy City series by Liz Tomford. If you watched my previous video, you already know I'm gonna continue this Windy City series. I skipped the first book, Mile High, which is a hockey romance. I love the second book, The Right Move, which is a basketball romance with a fake dating trope. And I'm going to continue reading the 3rd and 4th books, which are both baseball romances. The 3rd book is a single dad trope, and the 4th book is a fake marriage trope. Not even a fake dating trope, fake marriage trope. I can't wait to read it! Also, the 5th book, Rewind It Back, is coming out in May, and we don't even have a cover for it yet, nor any synopsis about what it is. The Emily Wilde series by Heather Fawcett. The fairy tale fantasy that everyone loves the cover of. All 3 of them follow Professor Emily Wilde in her adventures. I like the first one, I haven't read the second one, but I'll most likely read the 3rd one, which comes out soon in February. The Powerless trilogy by Lauren Roberts. Yes, I'm going to continue this series. Fearless, the 3rd book, comes out in April, and I'm just hoping that it has more stuff going on than Reckless did, which is the 2nd book, because barely anything happens in Reckless. Now, this is either called It Happened One Summer series or the Bellinger Sisters series. I have read this book, the first one, It Happened One Summer. I have not read the 2nd book, Hook, Line, and Sinker. Basically, it follows one sister and then it follows the other sister. And there are only 2 books in this set. I actually really like this book, and I wouldn't mind reading this 2nd book, but I'm not pining for it. I think I'll just save it for a palate cleanser. Defy the Night series by Bridget Kemmerer. A young adult fantasy series about a girl who's trying to save the people of her land from an illness. There's a romance, there's a prince, she's a smarty patootie, and there are 3 books to this series. I've only read the first book, and the 2nd book sounds a little bit similar to Reckless by Lauren Roberts, which barely has anything happen in it, so I'm a little bit hesitant to pick it up. But I shall continue the series. The Never After series by Emily McIntyre. Dark contemporary romance, anyone? Yes, I will be continuing this series. They are all complete standalones, and each one is a dark and fractured reimagining of a children's story or fairy tale. Hooked is inspired by Peter Pan, where Wendy falls for Captain Hook. But don't worry, Captain Hook is age appropriate. There's no big age gap between them. Scarred is Lion King, Wretched is The Wizard of Oz, Twisted is Aladdin, Crossed is The Hunchback of Notre Dame, and finally, Hexed is The Little Mermaid. I'm pretty sure Emily McIntyre can just continue on with the series and just cover all of the children's stories that we know. If I had to guess what the next one will will be about, I'm gonna guess Cinderella. The Housemaid series by Frida McFadden. There are 3 books to this series, but they can all be enjoyed as a standalone. The main character is a housemaid in each one, or at least used to be a housemaid, but they're all different people. I enjoyed reading the first book, but I think I'll leave my fondness for that book there. I'm not itching to continue the series. The When in Rome series by Sarah Adams. They have different couples, but all 3 books take place in Rome, Kentucky. But yes, I do plan on continuing this series. The 3rd book actually comes out next month. My Vampire series by Jenna Levine. To me, it's not automatic thinking that this is going to be part of a series, but looky here, we have My Vampire +1. It's an interconnected standalone with, I think, the vampire from the first book's friend. And the 2nd book has a fake dating trope. I do plan on continuing the series with the 2nd book, but if the ending is as bad as the first book, I don't know, Jenna Levine. A League of Extraordinary Women series by Evie Dunmore. I've only read the 3rd book in the series, Portrait of a Scotsman, but I do have the 4th book, The Gentleman's Gambit. But honestly, I was a little bit bored reading The Portrait of a Scotsman. I think I like historical romances. I mean, I really liked Half a Soul by Olivia Atwater, but this one, I don't know. I wasn't roped in. With this one, if I happen to pick it up because of a TBR prompt or a random number generator or something, then yeah, I'll read it, I don't mind. But otherwise, I'm not planning on reading the first 2 books. The Empyrean series by Rebecca Yarros. Okay, I've only read The Fourth Wing, and I know Iron Flame was a huge disappointment for many. Yet, I see a lot of people are excited for Onyx Storm. But I ask myself, do I really want to drudge through Iron Flame just so I could get to Onyx Storm, which I don't even know if it's good yet. This is to be determined. It Ends With Us series by Colleen Hoover. No, it's not my type of book. Assistant and the Villain series by Hannah Nicole Mayer. Yes, the series is called Assistant and the Villain. It's a humorous fantasy series, and I did not know that the 3rd book was coming out in August of next year, and it's called Accomplice to the Villain. So far, I've only read the 1st book, which seems to be a common theme here. I need to learn how to commit all the way through, but I am planning on continuing this series. The Finlay Donovan series. Yes. Finlay Donovan is Killing It was a really great book. It was jam-packed with action even in the first few chapters, and I never got bored reading it. There are 5 books in this series, and the 5th one, Finlay Donovan Digs Her Own Grave, comes out in March of next year. I'm hoping that the next 4 books don't disappoint me, but I'll let you guys know. The Dream Harbor series by Laurie Gilmore. I've only ever audiobooked 2 of the books, The Pumpkin Spice Cafe and The Christmas Tree Farm. I've never physically read it with my eyes. However, both times I listened to the book, I really did not like them, and I did not care for the characters. It was just kind of a miss for me. There are 2 more books coming out next year, The Strawberry Patch Pancake House and The Gingerbread Bakery. I don't think I'm gonna read the remaining 3. As cute as the covers are and how great it'll look on my bookshelf, sorry. Legends and Lattes series by Travis Baldry. I've read the 1st book, Legends and Lattes, but I haven't read the 2nd book, Bookshops and Bone Dust. And here's another book I didn't know was coming out, the 3rd book. The 3rd one is coming out in November of next year, and it's called Brigands and Bread Knives, making this a 3-book series. I'll consider continuing this series, but I'm not in a rush. The Graves Glen series by Erin Sterling. The XX, which is a paranormal witches and wizards romance, is the 1st book, and there are 3 total, The Kiss Curse and The Wedding Witch. The 2nd book follows the female main character from the 1st book's cousin, and then the 3rd book follows the main male character from the 1st book's brother. The XX was an okay read, so I think I'll continue the series. The Zodiac Academy by Caroline Peckham and Suzanne Valenti. Committing to this series means committing to 12 books, which is a huge commitment. So I'll say that I'm planning on continuing the series, but finishing it is yet to be determined. Although it looks like the 11th book is a retelling of the 1st book, but from the boy's point of view, and book 12 looks like it's a novella. So technically that's 10 books in total, but that's still a lot of books. Under the Mistletoe series by Amazon. This one is technically part of a 5-part series by original Amazon stories and not actually a series written by the same author. I've read 2, Cruel Winter with You by Ali Hazelwood and Only Santa's in the Building by Alexis Daria. I don't think I'll read the other 3, maybe if there's really nothing to read next Christmas. The Natural series by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. Yes, I will be continuing this series. And so far, I'm doing pretty well. I'm reading them a little close to each other so that I don't have too much time in between and it's still fresh in my mind. So I'm actually going to use that to my benefit and try to finish this series first before I finish any other series. Because at this point, if I don't remember something from the 1st book of a different series, it's a lost cause. It's been a while. And actually, I did pick this one for my December TBR and I did indeed finish it. So a reading vlog coming soon. And those are all of the series that I'm in the middle of. Those are 33 series that I'm in the middle of. I better get going on these series. But thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!